Hello, Palladium fans. I'm here again with Kevin to continue our official history of Palladium books. And today we're dipping our toes back into a pond that we've gone to twice before. We've talked about the original Robotech movies. We talked about Macross 2 in our Palladium Miscellanea episode. And today we are talking about Shadow Chronicles. Robotech Shadow Chronicles. Kevin, thanks for doing this. And yeah, that cover is awesome. It's just
awesome. The artist is Paulo Okamura, and he's a huge anime fan. And in fact, it's funny, when I first met Apollo, he started submitting art to the Rifter. In fact, he's a great example for those of you who are aspiring artists or writers. The Rifter was designed, as we talked about during the Rifter episode, to be sort of a talent show test platform for potential writers and artists, as well as being a fanzine for game masters and players who have cool ideas and want to share with everyone. And Apollo did a bunch of stuff for the Rifter, and I finally started using him in Rifts and a couple other things. And yeah, he loved Robotech and Macross. So when we got that, he said, "Kev, can I take a run at the cover?" And I'm like, go do it. And he did. He did a great job. The funny thing I want to mention, I never knew this until this year. So for the TMNT Redux editions, we have beautiful tribute art, full page pinup pages by all kinds of artists, including Apollo and Wayne Bro and a bunch of famous, Jim Lawson, et cetera, Freddie Williams. But we also have written remembrances from all kinds of people. And if I knew this, because I'm sure Apollo must have told me, but I completely forgot it. Apparently, the reason he was dying to do art for Palladium was because he was a TMNT fanatic.
Oh, that's awesome.
He had the role-playing game rights, and he wanted to do Ninja Turtle artwork. And ironically, he never had the opportunity until this Redux edition. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad you had that opportunity, but wow, I don't know if I knew that.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so when these came out, I remember them coming out not in the traditional Palladium size format, but in the, as I was corrected earlier, the manga size format.
Yeah, we erroneously, by the way, and this is where, you try things and you learn things sometimes the hard way or by trial and error. But we thought, hey, it's Robotech The Shadow Chronicles. It was a new release that was coming out on video by Harmony Gold. And we thought, wouldn't it be cool to do the RPG and the source books in manga size format, and the art's kind of a little bit more true to the original manga roots.
Yeah.
And Apollo did all the covers.
Yeah.
Which again, they're beautiful. And a bunch of people bought them, and then we would get tons and tons and tons of emails and telephone calls and questions at conventions about when are we coming out with the full-size editions, which we had no plan on doing. And a lot of people said, well, I'm not going to buy the small books because I want the big book. These don't fit on my shelf with the rest of my games. I want something that, and we're like, oh my gosh, it makes total sense. Just didn't think.
Yeah.
We thought we were doing something cool and clever. And it's like people are annoyed.
Well, one of the things that, to jump over back to Rifts for a second, that's one of my things that I love about the Savage Worlds Rifts is that they're trade paperback form. And we talked about how you guys kind of pioneered the idea of taking the trade paperback form and, the binding and such and making. So it's kind of a full circle. So I think in theory, I like the idea of a manga size form, but I'm getting old and it's very hard for me to read small digest sized.
The type wasn't too bad.
Okay. So why did you decide to do the Shadow Chronicles? And did Harmony Gold reach out because they were like, hey, you've done the other ones?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So we weren't expecting it. So I don't remember if we touched on why we let Robotech go in the first place, but
we might have. But for people who have not,
we had done Robotech for quite a while, and Harmony Gold at the time was fooling around with coming out with a new Robotech IP called Robotech 3000. And it was going to be an animated release, and they decided that to really promote it, it would be the new face of Robotech, and that we could not continue, Palladium Books could not, and other licensees could not continue to produce the old original material. Because we were all for, great, we'll do Robotech 3000, just like we were really like, great, we'll do Shadow Chronicles.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't let us keep the other books in print. And I knew our fans would get really upset with that. Mm-hmm. Plus, when I got some insight to Robotech 3000, I went, as a fan, it didn't feel like Robotech. It was too much of a departure. So
that's why we all know Robotech 3000. Yeah, the only time I've ever heard Robotech 3000 is when you and I have talked about it.
Well, that's the thing is, it never really happened. I mean, I don't know if, I'm sure some work was made. I know they had some model sheets and character concepts and stuff. And I want to say I read some kind of script, or at least a script outline for the series, which I don't remember because it just wasn't memorable. So our license was coming up, and I just said, you know what, we'll skip it. Thanks, but no thanks. And if we can't continue to do the existing books, then we're going to walk away. And they said, okay. So that's what happened. And then apparently the new regime at Harmony Gold with Tommy Yoon and Stephen Yeun and some of the other folks, when they came on board, they're like, man, we love that old Palladium stuff. Does anyone know why Palladium stopped doing, the role-playing games? And nobody knew, because the people that were behind like Robotech 3000 were no longer there.
Right.
And so one day, some new release must have been out, because I remember being in the warehouse in the middle of stuff, and this call comes in, and Alex usually answers the phone, and I think it was Alex, comes up to me and says, yeah, do you have time to talk to Tommy Yoon at Harmony Gold? And I'm like, in the middle of all kinds of stuff, but I'm like, who? Harmony Gold? Yeah, sure. So I took the call right in the warehouse, and he's like, hey, we're coming out with this new thing called Shadow Chronicles. And I said, yeah, I've heard. I stayed.
Yeah, no, of course.
In the fandom, so I knew what was going on. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, would you be interested in licensing it? I mean, none of us remember why you quit doing the role-playing game in the first place. Was there a problem? And I'm like, no, there wasn't really any problem. And I told him the Robotech 3000 thing. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry they insisted on that. And he's like, well, would you like to get it back? And I'm like, and do Shadow Chronicles? And I said, yeah, let's talk.
Yeah.
So we talked, and he sent us, a videotape, or DVD probably, of what was coming. And then, we talked terms, and they were acceptable to us. And they were a lot like the original terms that we had with them. And I said, yeah, this is great. Let's do it. And we did.
So what for you was the most exciting thing about coming back to Robotech, and especially what they were doing with Shadow Chronicles?
I think just the fact that it was back. And I know some fans are really they weren't real happy with Shadow Chronicles, and they had a weird blend of like CGI art with 2D art, and I thought the story was actually pretty strong. I didn't mind that blend, but I'm into trying new things.
Right.
So I actually thought the video was pretty good. I was disappointed that they never turned it into a full-fledged TV series. But that's always hard to do and super costly. I think that's one thing fans don't realize, is that to do a new show like that, you're looking at, back in the day, probably 70-80 million dollars to do a season. I mean, it's scary and prohibitive, the cost. And even though the owner of Harmony Gold in the day, it was a very wealthy man, that's a lot of money to take a risk on.
It is, yeah.
And Hollywood tends to be risk adverse. Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, that's one of the things that I still have to keep in mind. I mean, Kevin, I know you own Palladium Books. I've done stuff where I've helped people like produce creative things. I mean, the starving creative is a trope for a reason. Most of the people who are pouring their heart and souls into these things are working hours that would kill regular people because it's their passion project. And as you said, in a increasingly more risk adverse media sphere, stuff that could get produced in the early days, it's harder and harder to get buy-in for, hey, let's do an entire season or a 12-issue series, or a movie based off something that's not nostalgia or an established IP. It's becoming harder and harder to do that. And so you have people who are just, bleeding their heart and soul onto the page to get something done. And yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. So so the first book was, Robotech Shadow Chronicles, mm-hmm. and Tommy Yoon had a really strong handle on what the fan base wants, even though some of the fan base is not all that enamored with Tommy. But Tommy really knew the market, really knew the property, and he really was a fan. Whatever you think of Tommy Yoon, I have to say, our working relationship was fabulous, and I really liked the guy as a business associate. The main guy we talked to for getting approvals and everything. Right. And so he understood that, the fans still wanted Macross and Southern Cross and the Masters saga. And so, this was the Master saga, and this is New Generation. Mospita. So he really gave us a lot of flexibility to run with stuff. They got us the IMA files or IMA files, and we're just open to all kinds of things. They were really pretty good to work with, especially Tommy. Like I said, Tommy just really got it, and he wanted us to give the fans what he knew the fans wanted and what we knew the fans wanted. And I think we something we experimented with, because it was I had a different author, Jason Marker, take a run at doing the first few books, and he wanted to take a more military kind of look. There's more military jargon, and it's a little less anime and a little more military. And the books did fine. I mean, of course, Macross sold like crazy, and there's a ton of wealth of information, in especially, this book,
The Master Saga.
Because when we originally had that artwork, Harmony Gold had no idea what it was. Carl Masick had gone on to do other things, and the rest of the people at Harmony Gold had no idea. So we just made stuff up. We asked them, well, you got great art. Can we just fool around with this? And that's when I created the Ebsis or Epsis. It's cool stuff. It's imaginative stuff. It's not, certainly the source material. And none of that was available back then. I mean, we searched all over the place and couldn't find, this is before the internet back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So now Harmony Gold had all the actual information about what these things were. Like, we didn't even know some of the stuff. Was it power armor? Was it giant robots? Was it what? And we were able to really set things right with the Master Saga / Southern Cross, Armies of the Southern Cross. And so I'm super proud of this book because I had a lot to do with it and the art direction and all the books, but really happy about that book. And they're all great. They're all fun, wonderful, imaginative adaptations of Robotech. And I think all of them are much more accurate. It's funny because people used to go, oh, the information's all wrong. And I'm like, but we didn't have that information.
Right. You were counting missiles on the screen on a VHS, pausing it to figure out what the payloads for the different Veritech fighters were back in the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. And so I was super happy that we got another run at it. And then we had all kinds of, big plans to do more stuff. Like, it was fun being able to do the Genesis Pit cover. The Genesis Pit book. The cover is by John Zlesnik.
Yeah.
And as is this one. Apollo got busy with other things, so he just couldn't do it. And then, we even were going to do a whole bunch more with the Expeditionary Force Marines. That was just the first book. We had a space pirate book in mind and a bunch of other stuff. And of course, the interior art is just great stuff, like always. And
yeah,
fans were loving it. It was a lot of fun. So, and then Tommy reached out to us in like 2004 or 2005. So again, we had like a shot at doing Robotech for like another 12 years. It was really great, a lot of fun. And after Jason Marker left the company, I brought in Irvin Jackson, and Irvin is more of a fan of the anime, and we started to bring back that more anime feel to the source books, which I think people really, really enjoyed. And Irvin did a great job. But, I mean, so did Jason Marker. I mean, yeah. The books are great, and the people behind it really put their heart and soul into it. There were just a couple different kind of takes that we took a shot at. So, it's fun to experiment, and it's fun to go into places that you haven't gone before.
Well, and I can only imagine as a creative and a publisher to be able to go back and revisit something, decades later and say, okay, could we do a better version? Could we refine it? We have access to more things, but also we've grown so much as writers and as a company since the first time we did it. Let's take another crack at it. That's kind of cool, especially with a licensed product, right? Most publishing companies will do that with like a second edition or,
sure.
Yep. But for this, I mean, when you get into the licensing arena, it gets really touchy. How long am I going to have this? I don't know. How long, how well is it going to do? Is somebody going to, as you said, somebody new going to come in and say, okay, give me all of these toys back. Now you can only play with these toys. These toys are no longer in the toy box. Licensing can be a hair pulling endeavor at some point. So it's got to be kind of cool to be able to go back and say, okay, let's do this again.
Well, it's very cool to be able to do it again. And you're right. It can be a hair pulling experience because that old cliche about the customer's always right is super true when it comes to a license. The licensor is always right. Unless it's something you're very, very passionate about. you just let it go. Whatever the licensor wants, you do. I mean, it's their property, and you're one of many people probably who is translating that into a different medium, and you have to respect the originating product and the licensor's will. Whatever they want.
Yeah.
That's it. It's theirs. It's not yours to say, oh, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this or that with Emperor Prozac or Aaron Tar. No, they want this. It's their IP. You do what they tell you. And sometimes it gets a little crazy. Like one of the funny things was, on some of the art we had, they wanted us to change the eye. And I don't mean the shape of the eye. I mean, it was like, we want the pupil to look a little different. And I'm thinking, in the manga format, it's like a postage stamp size image.
Yeah.
You can barely see the pupil of the eye. But it was like, nope, you got to do this.
Okay.
Exactly. It's like, okay, that's what you want. If that makes you happy at the end of the day, then you got it.
Well, and I remember you sharing the story that during the original run, you would stat something out and they'd be like, "Oh no, this is an autocannon, not a laser." And you're like, "No, I'm pretty sure it's a laser." No, change it. Okay.
Well, same thing with the names. I mean, for me, it got really confusing because the original Japanese names for like the Destroids and even some of the other vehicles and spacecraft were changed. And then, you fast forward 20 years, and now everyone has access to the internet. Everyone knows what the stats are, what the names are. And so now we have to change it all back. But they made us change it, a whole different regime at Harmony Gold made us change the names in the first place.
Right.
Now the new regime was telling us to put them back, and we're like, whatever you say, just be clear.
Well, as long as you're clear, we'll get it done.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it's your IP. If that's what you want, that's what we'll do. We're happy to do it. And again, personally, I was happy, like the rest of the fans out there, as a Robotech Macross fan.
Yeah,
I was happy to see it return to its roots and be closer to what the actual original anime was.
Yeah.
Although I want to say, I mean, as great as Macross is, and as much as I love those original animes, and there are elements of Robotech that are just funky, especially in the Master Saga. But I love the Robotech story. I love the scope. I love how they represented the characters. It's the new generation and Macross are two of my favorite parts of Robotech. I mean, what's not to like about Macross, and what's not to like about the Invid Invasion?
Yeah.
Or new generation. It's just good stuff, man.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much. All right. Well, that brings this one to a close. We'll see you all in 2 weeks for more history of Palladium Books. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe to Palladium Books. Please give a thumbs up on the video, leave a comment. We're checking them. We'll get questions kind of threaded in as we go through.